Okay, so this is going to be a Vet Sanctum Ophidia healing tutorial run. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run you through each major fight, each major ad pull, kind of explain what I'm doing as a healer here, and why we do what we do. Um, this is a vSO hard mode run. It was not clean, I can tell you that. But like my other one, I decided to use one of my dirtier runs because it gives you a sense of some of the chaos that can occur. So essentially, as usual, I'm running Mending, Spell Power, Cure, Master Resto. At the moment, I'm actually running Poisons on my Master Resto, just because of the way that the Master Resto is set up in this patch. You still get all of the benefits of the Master Resto, plus you get to apply Poison. So I'm running a major breach poison on both bars. We don't have any stam in this fight, I think, in this trial, so it didn't make any sense to have major fracture. So pretty easy. When you run in that first ad pull back there, it's always going to be a lag fest of note. Generally what we would do is we would come and we would stack in the corner once we got rid of this first ad. Then we would pull everything in and basically just burn it down. You can see I'm running all the standard Templar abilities. One thing that I do is on vSO, specifically vSO, I make sure I'm running a rune. This gives me much more survivability. There's a lot of AoE in this fight. The nice thing about Mending is that it does debuff pretty much everything. But at the same time, with this trial in particular, you have to have either a ward on your bar, or if you've got a rune focus like I do, then you use that. So essentially what we do is we just drop our heal over times. You can see I'm doing combat prayer. As a healer, you want to stand behind the group. With the next patch, that's even more relevant, given that Breath of Life only works for 180 degrees in front of you. So what I'm doing here is dropping my heal over time, my large hut, and plus the rune focus, putting down combat prayer, putting down lightning wall or blockade to get the off balance, which you can see proccing quite a lot, and then just healing springs. Nothing too complicated in this ad pull. Really all you're doing is you just keep everyone up, it stacks nicely, they line of sight nicely, and essentially you're just doing some really what I would call basic healing. Nothing too much required. So I'm going to fast forward to the boss pull here. It's pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same thing throughout the fight. So what we're going to do is we're going to run out. Typically you would clear all the ads. We were a little bit slack here, and we let a couple of ads survive, so we had to just do some house cleaning when we were outside. You'd stack in a semicircle like this, one healer on either side. You can see the other healer has crown on the other side, and you would start. So essentially here you're doing pretty much the same thing. You're putting down your extended ritual, you're putting down your rune focus, and the main thing that you got to watch out for this fight is that popcorn. So you see there I did a pretty good job of avoiding the popcorn. If you watch, you see he throws his head back. That basically means that he's going to do popcorn. If you immediately start walking away, or you can dodge roll when he does that, that'll help tremendously. We had some really poor RNG. We were not stacked heavily at all, and we still got a black hole on us. So typically you wouldn't have a healer in the hole, but unfortunately with the RNG that we had, I actually ended up in the hole, I think, 3 times in this fight. So now down here, you're basically just clearing out the boss. That's pretty basic. Nothing too challenging. You want to keep everyone up. You want to make sure that you have your huts done, and pretty much just make sure that everyone has resources, throwing shards, putting down rune focus if needed. For this fight, you really don't need much at all. Typically, you'd be an off tank in 3 DPSs. So once you kill the boss, you come back up, assume the same position. Whenever you see that large AoE, you have to block. If you do not, you will wipe. As a healer, what you want to do is whenever you see that large AoE, head back. So that means that he's going to do popcorn, move away, no popcorn on me, and I'm good. So whenever you see that large red AoE, you immediately want to block and then start spamming Breath of Life so that you can get anyone who did not block back up to life. So you see head back, I moved away a little bit, popcorn wasn't targeting me, so that was good. yeah, so really this is not a complicated fight, but that popcorn is really brutal. As soon as he throws his head back like that, you've got to be aware, you've got to roll, you've got to walk, otherwise you're done for. So I'm going to speed up the rest of this fight. Like I said, it's pretty much the same throughout the fight. He has the same mechanics. There's this head back with popcorn. It puts down the massive red AoE. Everyone has to block. Drops the black holes. You can see I got pulled into the black hole 3 times. That is not normal. I was nowhere near stacked with anyone, and yet I still got dragged in, which is really odd. So focus the boss, get him down, and do your job as a healer, keep everyone alive. Okay, so the first boss in this trial, I would say, is a very good test to see whether your group has it to complete the trial. If you can handle the popcorn mechanics, which are very brutal, you have to move as soon as you see his head, otherwise you basically have no chance of avoiding it. You can probably do the rest of the trial. So this ad pull is essentially your first introduction to an overcharger. So what you need to know about overcharges is that they're always top priority for aggro. You always want to pull an overcharger and burn him down as fast as possible because his AoE hits hard. So what you'll see is every single time we have an overcharger, you'll see an overdrop like that. That'll mitigate a lot of the damage. Sometimes you'll see a veil of blades. If we have a night blade in the group, which is not very often, but we do have one who can put out significant deeps, and he runs with us. Otherwise, if push comes to shove, you can always put in a healing negate, but we really like the Nova mitigation. Essentially, you stack overcharger and then you burn. The easiest way to remember the priority for burns is number of flags, 3, 2, 1. So Fang's always second, and then everything else after that. So that was the first overcharger. There are a lot of overcharges in this trial. There was a lot of AoE in this trial. And it's one of the reasons why mending is so powerful, because of the debuff it gives to all the ads. Okay, so basically what you're going to see now, I'm going to fast forward through it, is the next ad pulls. It's pretty much of the same. So pretty much like all the other ad pulls, overcharges first priority. Always have a mitt, so you always want your Templars to drop a Nova. If that means that your healers aren't putting down aggressive Warhorn, then so be it. If you do not have a mitt on an overcharger, you will lose people, and it's a cascading effect. So the overcharges hit hard, then the Fangs, and then you move on to the Trolls as a final priority. I wouldn't worry too much about clearing the poison. As long as there's a Troll in the mix, you will get poison. So pretty much just want to heal through that. Standard tactics here: stay behind the group, put down your combat prayer, put down your healing springs, of course, put down your extended ritual. If you need to put down your rune, put down your rune. So what we usually do is we clear out the bridge for the ads, and then we have main tank pull boss over, and off tank pulls the remaining ads, which we just burnt, and then we stack and burn this boss. So this boss does hit hard, but what you'll find is that if you have mending, if you have a heal over time down, your extended ritual, if you have both healers with springs, and of course off tank in the back putting out a nice vigor every now and then, and if everyone blocks, whenever you see that big red AoE, if everyone blocks, you can burn through it. So you don't actually have to worry too much about him. Make sure that you can try and get your tank in your springs. You can see he's just on the edge of my springs. So I'm trying to get as close to him as possible. And then you can see everyone's health bar dips when he does that major move. He's going to throw poison, which hits really hard. Again, you want to block. He's going to hit the ground like that, and you want to block. If you don't block or you don't have stam, you will die like that. Really simple fight. Honestly, it's a stack and burn, nothing too much to consider. So I'm going to run through the rest of this fight on high speed, because it's pretty much rinse repeat all the way through. Get across the bridge. One little trick that we did learn is that if you crouch, you can actually get rid of the poison. So every time you have poison and there's no trolls around, just crouch and it'll go away eventually. So this one here, what I wanted to show you is just the power of a mitt. So here you can see I am solo healing tank with this overcharger. He's going to get overcharger AoE any second now. I dropped a Nova. I'm dumping a Mending on him with my Healing Ritual, so he's getting the debuff, and we're all living. So usually you would need at least overlapping springs to survive an Overcharger. But with the Nova, with the Mending, with the Ritual down, with the Rune down, you're pretty much able to survive for a bit. If he double stacks AoE on you, you're going to have a problem. So what we do is I come in here, we hold Overcharger, Tank and myself, while the other group goes and does the right side, and then they pull the Notion Patrols and we do the left side. So the mechanics on the ad pulls are always the same. Always drop a mitt on an Overcharger. Overcharger is always #1 priority, followed by Fangs. Again, 3, 2, 1 in terms of flags. Trolls are last. So really a lot of this trial is the same mechanics over and over. You'll see that we occasionally position ourselves to line us up the ads just to get them to stack. But really the mechanics are the same. Overcharger first, 2 flag second, Fang usually, and more priest and troll. Shamans are typically last. So you're going to run through the trial, burning the ads in the same sequence as you do every single pull. You're going to do some line of sighting, which I'm not going to get into all the specifics of line of sighting. There's plenty of tutorials out there for that. As a healer, what you need to know is usually exactly the same thing. You put down your extended ritual, you put down your rune focus, you dump your combat prayer, you put down your blockade so that you can off balance the creatures, that everyone gets the buff on their damage if they're running Thermotorch passive. And then you're just doing whatever you can to keep everyone up, throwing shards and orbs when needed. It's from a mechanics perspective, basically between bosses, it's not hard, it's just frustrating because of all the damn AoEs and because the Overcharges hit so freaking hard. So we're coming up now, pretty much on the second to last boss. So we typically do a semicircle around this door. Main tank tanks the boss sideways by the door. The reason he does it sideways is boss hits hard and sometimes knocks the tank through the door, which is a bit of a mess. And then what happens is off tank pulls a number of ads out the room, and basically whatever comes through this door, we would target it and burn down. They're on a timer, so it makes no sense trying to keep everything in the room. We have off tank will run a lot of the ads out and away. It's a little bit of a challenge, but essentially it helps us just manage this boss as much as possible. So what you saw is an Overcharger came out the door, so we would immediately drop a mitt. Usually it's either a Nova or Veil of Blades, if we have a Nightblade again. This is going to help us survive. You want to always have a mitt when the Overcharger comes out, which is pretty predictable. Should be one coming out any second now. You want to have your heal over times down. You want to make sure that you're relatively stacked, but not too stacked, because the damage from the AoE, from the Overcharger and the poison will kick you pretty hard. And if you get bolted as a healer, and you're not on your other healer's springs, you're going to die. So essentially the fight is Overcharger comes out, drop a mitt, melt the Overcharger down, switch on the boss and just do as much damage as possible. Again, not really complicated mechanics. You just have to keep an eye on things. She's going to bolt people occasionally, which will do damage, plus basically takes them out of the fight. If you get bolted as a healer, you would have a DPS on either side, like I do there, whose main job really is just to unbolt you. And then obviously tank and healer gets preference and priority on unbolting. You cannot keep too many people down. If you have DPSs dying on this fight, two things. One, you're not doing a great job with the heal over times, you're not doing a great job with your springs, you have to keep everything perfectly spaced. But sometimes it's unavoidable. DPSs have to get up fast. The reason for this is that the RNG on the bolt basically targets, I think it increases like 2, 3, 4 people as the fight goes on. But if you have dead people, they cannot be targeted and you will get bolted. If both healers are bolted, it can be a wipe if the DPSs aren't quick enough to get them up and the springs wears off. So like I say, the fight itself, not that complicated from a healer perspective. You can see I've always got my rune down, I've always got my heal over time down on my extended ritual. I'm using springs. Again, I'm running poisons on my master resto, so that I'm getting the debuff for the major breach. And I'm throwing combat prayer whenever I can and putting down a blockade to make sure that we have everything off balance as much as possible. Fight was almost over, but I'm just going to fast forward to the end. because it's very much a rinse and repeat. R&D does have a part to play, like I mentioned earlier, but at the end of the day, if you just melt the Overcharger first, make sure that you get him done before he kills too many people, and you focus boss, when off-tank stays alive, you're not going to have too many issues on this fight. Again, mending helps tremendously. So once you kill this boss, you need to immediately run over to the door. You'll see we kind of all just scatter over there. A lot of us don't even pick up the swag until afterwards. This is because immediately afterwards you get ads come through. If you're not prepared, they kind of hit pretty hard because everyone's looking at their gear. So from here on to the last boss, it's very much a stack burn process, exactly like all the other fights. Priority never changes. Always make sure you have a mitt. So here what we've done is we flipped it onto the increased difficulty for the hard mode. A little bit of back and forthing and chatting because we had a off-tank that was not that familiar with this fight. So it took us a little bit of time to explain to him what needed to happen essentially. So what you'll see in this fight is I am basically healing off-tank. So you're going to have a group tank, and you're going to have group healer, sorry, and an off-tank healer. Group healer is going to stand in the mix right here on the circle and heal everyone. I'm going to move back and forth. Most of the time, off-tank does not need heals. He can hold the two Lamias. He doesn't have any major issues. When he gets to Manticore, he needs a little bit of help. And whenever there's poison, like there, you can see he ran in for some heals. You want to keep him in your springs. So what you'll do is you'll kind of run back and forth as the off-tank healer. As the group healer, all you're doing is you're just staying out of that, making sure that you're getting rid of your magicka like that, which I'm going to talk about shortly, and keeping everyone alive. What I'm going to be doing here is running back and forth, putting on my Warhorn whenever I can, keeping a nice heal over time, my extended ritual over the off-tank so that he has some type of heals. And then focusing group as much as I can, and ensuring that off-tank is getting everything that he needs to stay up. So a couple of mechanics here. So what you'll see is we do this. We do basically the stack process, the stack method for the World Shaper. So what will happen is after this, I think it's after poison phase. He'll reach up into the air, and a green ball like that will start building above his head. He'll launch it, and it will focus on one person. So what you do is you stack so that he targets the group 9 times out of 10. Sometimes he targets off-tank, sometimes he targets me, sometimes he targets main tank, but most of the time he targets the group. And then as soon as he releases it, everyone scatters so no one gets hurt. You saw the Manticore come up. Usually you wouldn't actually pull Manticore into group. But because we're doing hard mode, what we do here is we alternate. First Manticore goes to group and gets melted. Second Manticore stays with off-tank. He holds Manticore until what we call pink phase. Once pink phase comes, basically what happens is everyone needs to go and get a little shield to survive the pink phase, otherwise it's a wipe. Essentially it's an insta-kill. So you can see here, I'm kind of staying in between. So when it comes to, you can see I had to dodge roll out of that one because it targeted me. So when it comes to this fight, you'll see that every now and then my screen goes blue. What's happening is basically you're getting a curse put on you. And what that's doing is it uses the magicka that you have on you to kill you. So what you have to do is you have to dump magicka. So you'll see I run this fight with as little magicka as possible. I try and keep it down to a minimum. I also have on my bar a heavy magicka cast ability. For me, it's typically cleanse. Other people run Seed Shield if they don't have the Purge or Cleanse morph unlocked yet. So that's why you see the Seed Shield. It's not actually doing anything. It's just helping them get rid of their magicka really fast because it's an expensive spell. So here you can see second Manticore comes up. Second Manticore is off tanks. So what's going to happen here is off tank's going to pull second Manticore. I'm going to stay and focus him. Make sure that he gets all the heals that he needs. Make sure that he's basically staying alive. He's now taking a lot more damage. So that Manticore hits really hard, and more than likely he's going to enrage before pink phase. So what you'll see now is you see there, it targets at me. You have to keep an eye out for that, and you also have to call it if it targets off tank. So what's going to happen, so now he's enraged. So what's going to happen is poison phase. I'm going to turn around and basically give the off tank some heals to make sure that he can survive. If one blocks on the AoE like that, otherwise it hits really hard. And then this is pink phase. So what happened there is pink phase then just destroys all of these ads, which is why off tank was holding them. Typically off tank cannot make the little pink ball that you saw me get, which means that you have to run back and give them a res, but you have a lot of time because everything resets. So what will happen now is we'll basically pick up the dead. We'll make sure that we avoid the world shaper once it comes in a second after poison phase, and we'll make sure that everyone's up by the time the first ads start spawning, which is going to be any second now. So there you see the Lamias have spawned. So off tank's going to pull the Lamias. He's going to take them off and he's going to hold them. And then basically everything from here on out is very much a rinse and repeat. This is probably the easiest hard mode that there is. You can see I'm trying to dump magic as fast as possible there. I just managed to clear it in time. Yeah, I would highly recommend that you don't have too much magic or recovery for this fight, otherwise you're going to have a big problem. So yeah, this fight is very much rinse and repeat, and essentially you're just going to do exactly the same things that I just called out. As a healer, you're going to run in, you're going to dump your combat prayer, you're going to put down your blockade like I did there. You're going to make sure that you have shards on off tank so that he has enough sustain to last the fight. And then you're going to make sure that you target off tank when he has Manticore, and you target off tank during poison phase. So I'm going to fast forward here, but basically what's going to happen is we're going to melt the boss pretty much the same methodology the whole fight. First Manticore is group, second Manticore is off tank. You want to keep your heal over times up, combat prayer. You can see I took a blow there. I think at that point one of the Lamias turned around and kicked me. They do hit pretty hard, the Manticore hits pretty hard. And you're just going to basically rinse and repeat through the whole fight. A couple of interesting mechanics, but really this is not that much harder than normal, which is normal vet, which is why a lot of people do vSO on hard mode to get the extra score, and why the leaderboards are quite challenging. So the one trick here is that at the end of the fight you have to keep killing the serpent. He does not die at 0%. You have to keep the DPS on him. If you don't, you'll have a problem. So essentially what you want to do is you want to keep focus on the boss until at the very end he dies. So really I think that pretty much covers vSO. Again, I did vSO hard mode here. Typically it's not that much harder than normal vet, so there's no reason really not to do it. So that's kind of why I decided to use this fight, even though it was a bit of a messy fight, messy trial. I hope that was of some help. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to help in any way I can. And hopefully this was an interesting tutorial that showed you the healer's perspective on some of these fights.